Hello, Waterford residents. This is Rob Brule, First Selectman, and I'm here today with Tom Martin, paid fireman here in town. I'm also with Bruce Miller, the fire administrator. So today, I just wanted to have Tom Martin come in, talk about some of the steps that are going on in town to keep us safe, keep the public informed, and thank you for coming, by the way, Tom.
You're welcome.
I know you've been busy, so I'm going to hand it right over to Tom so he can talk a little bit about what the firefighters in town are doing right now to combat COVID-19. In addition, some of the steps that are being taken to keep everyone safe. You as a taxpayer and our employees, which Tom, Bruce, and I have talked about regularly. So with that, Tom, do you mind if I just hand it over to you to say a few words?
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Currently, right now, we're just continuing to work with our equipment, testing, inspecting it, making sure it's ready to go in case it's needed for any type of emergency type situation that we have in town. We've been going through training over the years to prepare for this type of event, similar to cases. We do annual bloodborne pathogen style training and hazmat training to work with our protective gear that we're going to wear and protective measures to make sure we do distances to try to control the situation and infection rate and our equipment and our personnel. We have our apparatus is pretty well staggered out throughout the town, so that in the need we're going to be able to provide our protection and safe response in a quick and efficient manner.
Okay, great. Well, I think it's been great over the last couple weeks, last month or so. I've been having an opportunity to go around town and to meet our firefighters, meet the volunteers and the paid firefighters. What I have seen is such an incredible commitment to this town and the residents and the community. I wanted to ask a question came up, a phone call came in not too long ago about apparatus throughout town. And with 5 fire departments and paid firefighters 24/7 out of really 2, Cohansey and Jordan, can you give us the public, or can you give us a little bit of information on where the equipment is and how that's done and the familiarity that the paid firefighters have with it?
Sure. Staffing is predominantly in the areas where we have some of the heaviest population and some of our biggest target hazards. And with that, we have placed some of the apparatus in those areas to meet those needs. Our 100-foot aerial ladder is at the Jordan station, which is closest to pretty much our tallest buildings and stuff in the area where we're going to need that. Whereas up in the Cohansey area, we have a shorter aerial device that's more suited for residential needs. As well as up in Quaker Hill, we also have a telesquirt device. It's an elevated stream made for the same similar type purposes. So we have our pumping apparatus, which is in all stations, which is pretty standard across the board. But some of the other type apparatus like that we have spread out depending on where we need it in town.
Great. Now, in terms of, we've heard there's back orders on safety equipment. The N95 mask, gloves and gowns and things of that nature for first responders. How is the town of Waterford prepared to handle this epidemic? Could you share a little information
Sure.
with the public on that?
Part of our regular inventory is to keep supplies like this on file and in the backdrop so that we have it in case of an incident like this. And we obviously anticipate that there is going to be, in the event of something like this, a high demand on the product. So we plan to have that stuff ahead of time. So we're pretty well stockpiled for a duration if needed here in the near future to protect everybody. And we use universal precautions when doing so. So we know when we need to use the equipment and we're going to use it wisely and effectively.
That's great. And Tom, just one other question has come up, and that's regarding 911 calls, emergency calls with ambulance, transporting, testing. Have there been any positive tests that we know of? And I don't even know if you can answer that question because it takes the test and you probably don't get told afterwards. But
Sure. The only thing I was aware of was as of yesterday, there's still no cases of a positive test in Lorraine County out of the L&M hospital. So.
Great. Well, that's great news. Well, you can notice Tom and I are at a distance. He made sure that we were a little bit further apart for this interview today. I appreciated that reminder from Tom, but I also appreciate the fact that there's people like Tom and all of our firefighters and emergency personnel out there day in and day out doing tough work. And this is one of these situations where can't thank you enough. Can't thank your, Well, with me right now, Bruce Miller, the fire administrator. Different role altogether than the day-to-day protection of our community. Bruce is responsible for all fire services, all apparatus, all training, all volunteers, all paid professionals. With that, I wanted to welcome you today. Thank you for joining us too. We appreciate it. So with that said, we want to make sure the public is aware of some updates. And thank you to Tom, who just shared with us that there's no active case, but that could change any minute, as we all know. But Bruce, what are we doing? People ask about the volunteers. There's 5 fire departments. And could you give us a little insight of, what you've set up in town to be able to handle this in terms of the firefighters?
Sure. Over the past, week or so, we've been gathering information from a lot of the local departments, state, federal resources, and so forth to come up with how we can handle this uniformly. A lot of it is still handling the social distancing, which has an impact on the fire departments because, the volunteers like to gather at the stations and have meals and train and so forth. So we have some restrictions on that. We're trying to overcome that by doing some online training. We've instituted some of that. A lot of emails will be going out about different classes that are available for them. Our fire prevention activities, some of our public relations stuff, public education, we've had to restrict access to the stations and so forth. But, the general guidelines of how to deal with the individuals at the scenes, keeping distances, trying to stay not away from the individuals, but to, not have 3 or 4 people around the person, send one person to communicate and get the information back. Along with that, our volunteers as well as our paid staff have been doing some deep cleaning at the stations, sanitizing things, deconning equipment, and basically having everything ready to operate. So we continue to work, with all those guidelines that are being pushed down from the CDC and everybody else, and we're getting those out to the chiefs and to all the paid staff and to the volunteers as much as we can as this thing progresses.
That's great. Now, I know that's going off, so is that one of the 911?
That's alerts, yeah.
And like I said to Tom before, the chiefs at all the 5 different departments, what is their role within this and the communication? Have you had communication with the chiefs, and has that information gotten to the chiefs? And just give us a little bit more about communication, because we do have a paid system, as you all know. We have a paid firefighter system and a volunteer firefighter system, and then an ambulance service that's a completely private entity, which many people don't know.
Right.
So there's a lot of moving parts to this. So the volunteers are the ones, and the officers.
Right. So as this information comes out, I've been sending them out, a couple 2-page documents as to what's new, anything that we've things that we've not, that we don't need to do anymore, or new information that's coming out. So we try to keep the most current information out there so that the chiefs have it, and it gets down to, because they're the ones basically responsible to run the incidents. So we want them to have the most current information on how to deal with the issues.
Okay, and that flow of information, does that then stream from the chief to the volunteer members?
Yeah, basically the setup that the chiefs utilize is, as they get the emails, they pass it on to their officers pass it on to their membership through all their social media accounts and email chains and so forth.
That's great. Well, I think, the volunteers have done so much. They continue to fill a void that we would not be able to do in this town. If you're watching out there and you're a volunteer firefighter, thank you so much for all you're doing to make our town safer. Thank you for the sacrifice that you're making as well. And a lot of these firefighters they don't get paid, do they?
No, they don't.
They come in and they come in and do this because they love this town. So thank you to all of them as well. Now, Bruce, is there anything else with ambulance service or anything that the community might want to know?
Well, you talked prior with firefighter Martin about our resources and so forth, and we do have resources. We have a stockpile, and we try to maintain that. But as this progresses, if it gets worse, those resources do become strained. So we'd really like to encourage people to follow along with the recommendations of the healthcare pre-screen by calling medical. All the hospitals have some hotlines set up that are manned by medical professionals, because a lot of the cases that are going in are just simple flu or simple illnesses that we're tying up resources or utilizing resources that don't need to, and people are just being sent back home to home isolate. So use those resources, and it'll help everyone out through the process.
Great. And could you, there's one thing that, I'm proud to say that firefighter Martin, yourself, have ensured the R1 license that the town recently received, the permit.
Yes.
Could you explain to the public, what that R1 license allows our paid firefighters to do?
Yes, the R1 license, it allows us to send our staff on the fire vehicles to assist with the ambulance calls prior to the ambulance arriving, or to assist if there's extra help needed. That license requires us to carry certain equipment on the vehicles. We have 10 vehicles that are licensed, so that we have them spread throughout town. And that way you'll see, as this progresses with the ambulance service responding, you'll see the fire trucks there to assist with our staff, so that things flow pretty proficiently.
That's great. Well, I appreciate it. Bruce, we appreciate what you're doing, and firefighter Martin, everything you've done for the town. Thank you so much. And what I'll do, I'll make sure I come back, and we'll have these guys back again soon. But if you have any questions whatsoever, you can contact me here at the First Selectman's office, 860-444-5834. You can email me at firstcell@waterfordct.org. Please, there's no dumb questions. Any question you have, please reach out to us. Bruce was going to give you his phone number as well for emergency services on the fire side. So I'll let him. I'll hand it off to him to give you his contact information. But thank you so much for tuning in today.
And if there's any questions or concerns from the fire service, you can email me at bmiller@waterfordct.org, or you can either call or text me on my cell phone, 860-625-3464.
Great. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. We'll be in touch. Stay safe.